The night was cold and still over the mountains of British Columbia. Inside the control room of the big radio telescope, a man sat alone with his thoughts and the soft hum of computers. He had been working at this observatory for nearly 8 years, and in all that time he had grown used to the silence. The silence of the mountains. The silence of the deep space. The silence of a life spent looking at things that no one else could see. His name was Aris, and he was not the kind of scientist who appeared on television or wrote books for the general public. He was the kind who drank cold coffee at 3 in the morning and muttered at his screens when the data didn't make sense. His job was to study fast radio bursts, those mysterious flashes of energy that come from somewhere deep in the universe. No one knows exactly what causes them. Some say colliding stars. Some say black holes. Some say other things. Aris did not care much about the theories. He cared about the numbers dot on this particular night. Nothing special was supposed to happen. The telescope was doing its usual work, sweeping the sky, collecting information, sending it to the computers. Aris was half asleep in his chair, a forgotten sandwich sitting beside him. His custom software was running in the background. He had written it himself years ago, a little program designed to filter out all the noise. Satellites passing overhead, airplanes, weather balloons, all the human-made signals that cluttered the data. His program was good at finding the real cosmic signals hidden in all that mess. Around 2 in the morning, a small alert popped up on his screen. It was not the loud alarm they used for major detections. It was just a soft ping, a gentle nudge. Aris opened his eyes and looked at the screen. The program had flagged something. He rubbed his face and leaned closer. At first, he thought it was a mistake. The system showed a massive energy signature coming from the very edge of the solar system, a region far beyond Pluto, called the Kuiper Belt. But the signature was not the kind that comes from a star or a planet or a natural event. It was organized. It was structured. It looked like the kind of energy you would get if something very large was trying to slow down after a very long journey. Aris sat up straighter. His heart began to beat a little faster. He checked the data again. He ran it through different filters. He compared it to known sources. Nothing matched. This was not a comet. This was not an asteroid. This was not any natural phenomenon he had ever seen in his entire career. He spent the next hour digging deeper. The signal showed multiple points of energy, all moving together, all decelerating at the same rate. In his mind, he tried to imagine what could cause such a thing. A fleet of ships. That was the only explanation that made sense. A fleet of enormous vessels, coming from somewhere far away, using their engines to slow down as they approached the edge of our solar system. He almost laughed at himself. It sounded crazy. It sounded like something from a bad movie. But the data was right there on his screen. Numbers do not lie. He decided to wait. He would watch and see what happened next. Maybe the signal would change. Maybe it would reveal itself to be something ordinary. Maybe a new satellite nobody told him about. Maybe a reflection off some old space debris. He gave it the benefit of the doubt. He watched for another hour. The signal remained steady. The fleet, if that was what it was, kept slowing down. They were getting closer to that invisible line, the boundary where our sun's influence begins to fade and true interstellar space takes over. And then, just before dawn, something happened that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. The signal vanished. It did not fade away. It did not break apart. It did not change course and leave. It simply stopped. One moment, the data showed a massive energy source. The next moment, the screen showed nothing but empty space. It was as if someone had reached out and turned off a switch. Aris sat in the darkness, staring at the screen. His mind raced through every possible explanation. Equipment failure. Power surge. Software bug. But the rest of the telescope was working perfectly. Other data streams were coming in clean. Only that one signal had disappeared. He spent the rest of the night trying to find it again. He pointed the telescope back to the same coordinates. He scanned the area in every wavelength he could access. Nothing. The fleet was gone. Not gone somewhere else. Just gone. Erased by morning. He was exhausted and confused. He decided to go home and sleep. Maybe his eyes were playing tricks on him. Maybe the long nights had finally caught up with him. He locked up his office and walked out into the gray mountain dawn, telling himself he would look at it again with fresh eyes after some rest. But when he came back the next night, the data was gone too. He checked his main files. The records from that night were incomplete. The hours around his discovery were simply missing. He checked the backups. Same thing. It was as if that part of the night had never happened. Then he remembered his personal backup. He always kept a separate copy on a private drive, just in case. He had learned long ago that official systems could fail. He plugged in the drive and searched through the files. There it was. The data from those early morning hours. The signal. The fleet. The vanishing. All of it saved on a small device in his pocket. He did not know what to do. Who do you tell? The police? The military? The news? He was just a scientist who studied radio waves. He was nobody. A few days passed. He said nothing to anyone. He kept going to work, kept doing his regular job, kept pretending everything was normal. But every night, he would pull out his private drive and look at the data again. He would study the numbers, hoping to find a mistake, hoping to prove himself wrong. But the numbers only confirmed what he already knew. Something had come to the edge of our solar system, and something had made it disappear. Then the visitors arrived. They came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. 2 of them, a man and a woman. They did not look like scientists. They did not look like government officials either. They looked like the kind of people you do not want knocking on your door. They were polite, but there was something in their eyes that made Aris feel very small. They asked to see his data. They asked about the night in question. They asked about his private drive. Aris tried to play dumb, but they already knew everything. They knew about the signal. They knew about the vanishing. They even knew about the backup he had hidden. The man spoke first. He said the data was a sensor malfunction. He said it happened sometimes with the new equipment. He said Aris should forget about it and go back to his regular work. The woman said nothing. She just watched him with those cold, patient eyes. Aris handed over his private drive. What else could he do? They thanked him and left. He stood in the doorway, watching their car drive away into the rain. He felt relieved. He felt scared. He felt like he had just given away something important without understanding what it was. For a few weeks, he tried to forget. He buried himself in his work. He stopped thinking about that night. He told himself it was nothing. A glitch, a mistake. A story his mind had built around random data. But late at night, when the observatory was quiet and the coffee was cold, he could not shake the feeling that someone was watching him. Not from the shadows. From much farther away. From the edge of the solar system. From the place where the fleets come and go, and where something waits in the darkness, making sure we never see what is really out there. He tried to move on. But the universe, as he was about to learn, was not done with him yet.